The Resident Evil games were a humongous part of my childhood. I do feel I say that quite a lot about a lot of game franchises, and I do apologise, but it's very true. I've been a hardcore gamer, what used to be considered a hardcore gamer back in the 90s. I'm hardcore in the sense that I play video games every day for hours a day. I'm not a pro gamer, and I'm not someone who strives to be the best I possibly can be at video games. So which I suppose is the more modern use of the word hardcore gamer. But I play a lot of video games. Okay, let's just get that out there. And I thought it would be interesting, cool, and fun to just give you guys my top 5 Resident Evil games. I chose 5 because 5, I think. I don't want to make this video super duper long with the top 10. I think 5 will suffice, I think. And starting off with number 1, and not to its detriment, mind you, it's just that there are other games within the franchise that are better, but it's the original Resident Evil remake that came out on the GameCube. Of course, this is the PC version that I am captured footage on during one of my Jill playthroughs. I recorded this gameplay quite a while ago, and this remake was mind-blowing when it came out on the GameCube, and it still looks very, very good now. And it just plays incredibly well and is super cool. I never had a problem with the tank controls on like a lot of original PlayStation 1 games, and when they brought out the GameCube remake, I was absolutely blown away by it. It is so damn good. They didn't take anything away, but they added, which is what you need to do with a remake. Coming in at number 2 is Resident Evil 7. Initially, when I heard that Resident Evil was going first person, I was like, really? And then, to my shock and horror, I found I really enjoyed Resident Evil 7, and I nearly said Final Fantasy VII then, but because I'm playing a lot of that, so sorry. But yes, Resident Evil 7 was a massive shock, and I genuinely really enjoyed it. I haven't played any of the DLC, but I do own it, so I do intend on going back through it. But I found this story with the new protagonist Ethan, I thought it was really cool. It was actually genuinely scary, especially when you're being chased around by someone that you can't kill, kind of like a Mr. X and a Nemesis situation going on. So that was terrifying, and the first person perspective really does put you there. And also carrying on from that, coming in at number 3 is Resident Evil 8 or Resident Evil Village. Now this one was my number 2 pick for my favourite Resident Evil game. People have probably already guessed which one is the number 1, but we're getting there. Resident Evil 8 is really cool, and no pun intended, but is definitely barking up my tree because it's using werewolves and lycanthropes and that kind of thing. It's not the only thing in it, of course. There are other monsters and some freaky-ass baby mutants, but apart from that, and of course you've got big-ass Lady D, which she wasn't in it as much as a lot of other people wanted her to be in the game. However, I found the section in the castle with her to be really cool, and beyond that, the game for me is just... It took everything that worked and was amazing in Resident Evil 7 and just blew it entirely out of proportion, and obviously utilised maybe a lot of ideas and a lot of elements from Resident Evil 4, which... originally I would have scoffed at, but that brings me to my number 2, and that is the Resident Evil 4 remake. I released a video a couple of years ago stating that I absolutely hate the original Resident Evil 4 back on the GameCube and PlayStation 2, and of course there's a Wii port, and you can now buy it on everything anyway. I hate that game with a burning passion. But the remake I absolutely love. I loved it. I played through it a few months ago and I had a whale of a time. I played the demo initially and was like, I'm not really interested, but then I picked it up for cheap and I played it and I couldn't stop playing it, and I hammered that game until I completed it, and I do intend on going back through it again and 100%ing it. I had a fantastic time with Resident Evil 4. Not only had they, with this remake, they amped up the scary elements, so there is actually some survival horror in there, but along with the graphics and the fact that they made the gameplay solid because they're utilising what they did for Resident Evil 2 and 3 remakes with that same engine, the RE engine, and unlike with Dragon's Dogma 2, where that game runs like absolute ass, the RE engine here is absolutely amazing, and Resident Evil 4 Remake has become like a game that I I couldn't stop talking about to friends for a good couple of weeks after beating it. It was really, really good. I also found that one section playing as Ashley where you can't attack anything but also can't touch anything because you get insta-killed. That was terrifying. But Resident Evil 4, the remake, is definitely a must-play and a fantastic game. And of course, that brings me to my number one pick, and that is obviously Resident Evil 2 Remake. The original Resident Evil 2 was absolutely golden and one of the best games on the PlayStation 1, and this Resident Evil 2 Remake is my favourite Resident Evil, and this is a fantastic remake. Not only did they do a fantastic job in recreating Raccoon City and the police station, but the graphics, the storyline, they added some new elements as well. They did mix it up a bit, of course, because originally in the original Resident Evil 2, you spend a little bit more time in the city, running away from the explosion of the tanker, going to the weapons shop and all that stuff. But all they did was just mix it around, so you do still get to go to the weapons shop, but it's not until a bit later on. They also put in the different scenarios as well, and the fact that you get to play through as Leon and Claire, and they did a really good job with Resident Evil 2 Remake. They dropped the bollock with Resident Evil 3 Remake. I don't know what the hell they were doing there. I completed that game in just over 2.5 hours. Not so long ago actually, and then realised there was a Steam achievement for completing it in less than 2.5 hours, so I was pissed. But apart from that, this Resident Evil 2 Remake is absolutely stunning. If you have not played it, please do. Please play all of the 5 games I've just mentioned here. And there may be some people who love Code Veronica in the comments, and I get that. I have Code Veronica on PlayStation 5, well, it's the PlayStation 4 version, and I haven't actually played it yet. So you're probably going to have a pop at me because how can I make my top 5 list if I've not played it? But I did. So sorry about that. But anyway, let me know down in the comments what's your top 5 Resident Evils, or if you want to go the whole hog, please put in there your top 10. And as always, thank you very much for watching.
Welcome to the family, son.